What if someone told you that a man once traded 2 bags of tomatoes and walked away with bags of gold? It sounds unbelievable. But the real twist of the story isn't about the tomatoes. It's about what happened to the merchant who came right after him. Because sometimes the difference between walking away with gold and walking away with vegetables is simply who arrived first. Long ago, hidden far from the busy trade routes, there was a small village deep in a quiet valley. The people there lived simple lives. They grew their own food, traded among themselves, and rarely saw anything new from the outside world. One day, a traveling merchant arrived pulling a wooden cart. On the back of it were 2 large sacks filled with bright red tomatoes. To the merchant, tomatoes were common, but to the villagers they were something completely new. The villagers gathered around him with curiosity. They held the tomatoes in their hands, amazed by their smooth skin and vibrant color. "What are these?" someone asked. The merchant explained that they were tomatoes, a fruit used in cooking that could make meals more flavorful and enjoyable. The villagers were fascinated. Soon everyone wanted some. At first they offered food, clothes, and tools in exchange, but the merchant politely refused. Finally, the village elders stepped forward and decided to offer what they believed was their most valuable possession: gold. One by one, the villagers traded gold for the tomatoes until both sacks were completely empty. When the merchant left the village that day, his cart was lighter, but his bags were filled with gold. News of this strange trade spread along the road. Another merchant heard the story and immediately saw an opportunity. If tomatoes were worth gold, he thought, then something even more unusual must be worth even more. So he loaded 2 sacks with potatoes and traveled to the same village. When he arrived, the villagers gathered around him again with excitement. They had never seen potatoes before. They examined the strange vegetable carefully. To them, potatoes seemed just as interesting as the tomatoes they had discovered earlier. The villagers began discussing how they should reward the merchant. Some said that offering gold again wouldn't feel right. After all, they had already given gold for tomatoes. So they decided to give something they now believed was even more valuable. Proudly, they brought out 2 sacks filled with tomatoes, the rare treasure they had recently received. They handed them to the potato merchant with gratitude. The merchant stood there, staring at the sacks. Tomatoes, not gold. He had traveled far and prepared carefully. But he had arrived second. The lesson: many people laugh when they hear this story. But behind the humor lies a powerful truth. The first merchant didn't just sell tomatoes. He sold something new, at the exact moment no one else had introduced it yet. Because he arrived first, he defined its value. By the time the second merchant arrived, the situation had already changed. In business, investing, and even life, timing often matters more than effort. Those who recognize opportunities early often walk away with the biggest rewards. Those who come later may still work hard, but the prize is rarely the same. Sometimes the difference between gold and tomatoes is simply this: who got there first? And the next story shows something just as powerful: how a simple idea can turn an expensive problem into a $15 solution. What if someone told you a man parked a Rolls-Royce on Wall Street for 2 weeks and paid only $15? In one of the most expensive areas in New York City, parking for even a single day can cost a small fortune. Yet somehow, this man managed to leave his luxury car there for 14 days and pay almost nothing. It sounds unbelievable, but the way he did it is what makes this story so interesting. One morning, a sharply dressed businessman walked into a bank located near Wall Street. He approached the front desk and calmly told the loan officer he needed to borrow $500 for 2 weeks. The request seemed simple, but bank policy required collateral for any loan. The officer looked at him and asked politely, "Do you have something valuable to secure the loan?" The businessman nodded and pointed outside. Parked right in front of the bank was a shining Rolls-Royce, one of the most expensive cars anyone could drive. The bank employee stepped outside, checked the car, and confirmed that it was indeed worth far more than the small loan he requested. Everything seemed perfectly legitimate. Within a short time, the bank approved the loan. The businessman handed over the car keys, signed the paperwork, and received his $500. The bank staff then carefully moved the Rolls-Royce into the bank's secure underground garage to hold it as collateral. The businessman thanked them politely and left. 2 weeks later, he returned exactly on time. He walked up to the counter, smiled, and repaid the loan in full. $500 plus $15 in interest. The transaction was quick and simple. But as the loan officer completed the process, curiosity got the better of him. During the paperwork earlier, he had noticed something unusual while reviewing the client's financial information. The man had millions of dollars in his bank accounts. Confused, the officer couldn't help but ask, "Sir, I hope you don't mind my question," he said. "If you already have so much money, why did you need to borrow $500? The businessman smiled calmly. "I didn't actually need the money," he replied. "I just needed a safe place to park my car." He paused for a moment and added with a quiet grin, "Where else on Wall Street can you park a Rolls-Royce for 2 weeks for only $15? The bank employee stood there, speechless. Most people are surprised when they first hear this story. But behind it lies an important truth. Success isn't only about how much money someone has. Often, it's about how they think. The businessman in this story didn't try to search endlessly for cheap parking. Instead, he looked at the situation differently and used the system in a creative way. While most people simply accept costs as they are, others search for smarter solutions. This is often the real difference between people. It's not always resources, luck, or connections. Very often, it comes down to mindset. Because sometimes, the smartest move isn't working harder. It's thinking differently. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment so you don't miss more amazing stories coming your way.